Join Time Magazine's lead education reporter alongside global educators and advocates to explore the impacts of teaching forgiveness.
I teach forgiveness because it can have a positive impact in my students' families.
It helps my students thrive in the face of adversity.
Students who can forgive are happier.
Join us to hear from teachers and thought leaders on how and why to include forgiveness in your classroom.
Temperature rise will bring widespread devastation and unprecedented extreme weather.
New coronavirus cases emerge across the country.
Obesity rates have more than doubled in kids.
Cape Town is running out of water.
My name is Nabila Bashir, the Business Development Manager at Rania Teacher Academy. I have been a computer science and information technology teacher for almost 16 years. And it always brings me joy to communicate and talk to teachers and educators. We would like to welcome you all to the QRTA showcase today. This is an opportunity where technology keeps communication open and allows us to share our experience virtually in the provision of professional developments to teachers in refugee camps and hosting communities, to educators everywhere in the world. So thank you T4 team for this opportunity. Let me start by introducing my colleagues, our panelists. Firstly, our biggest inspirer, who develops all the strategic plans during his daily walks. He loves green tea, and apparently it inspires him to innovate. Being a technology expert and moving into business and then into education is his uniqueness and expertise. Mr. Abid Shamlawi is the Executive Director of Strategic Affairs at QRTA, and previously he was the CEO of the Technology Association of Jordan and a member of the team who developed the national strategy for technology industry in Jordan. Welcome, Abid.
Thank you, Nabila. It's great to be here and to have a discussion on our programs and reflecting on what we're doing.
Thank you. While introducing Rula Said, I must say that the magical mixture between engineering, mathematics, and cooking just makes the perfect recipe. Actually, she knows how to alter or modify the ingredients of any recipe to produce the best outcome in the most efficient way. Rula is the Director of Programs at QRTA and had been the Teacher Education Professional Diploma Manager as well as the Quality Assurance Lead, and most importantly, a mathematics practitioner. So welcome, Rula.
Thank you so much, Nabila, for this overwhelming introduction, actually. Coming from a very creative person, let's say. I'm so glad to be here, and it would be great to share our experience with our amazing audience. Thank you.
Thank you. As for our adventurers, Abir Hakouz, who loves to travel and to inspect, and even at her work, she does an amazing work in the evaluation and research studies of our programs. She has all the numbers and graphs, so she likes music. So at any time, if you pop into her office, you will definitely enjoy some nice music. Abir is the Monitoring and Evaluation Manager at QRTA, and currently she is doing her doctorate degree in Research and Evaluation in Education. Hello, Abir.
Thank you, Nabila, and thank you for the nice introduction coming from a friend and a colleague. I'm really pleased to be with you today.
We are as well. So what about we start with this video?
The Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan has shouldered the impact of a massive influx of refugees who fled from the war in Syria in 2011. Close to 13,000 Syrians per day began pouring into Jordan to reside in its refugee camps, with around 658,000 registered Syrian refugees. Almost 240,000 of those are school children. In response to the Syrian crisis, the Ministry of Education in Jordan began opening schools in camps and increased double-shift attendance in existing schools. By the end of the academic year 2017, more than 125,000 Syrian refugees were enrolled in government schools. The Queen Rania Teacher Academy has always responded to crises that have had an impact on education through the professional development of educators. QRTA developed a program to address the psychological and pedagogical needs of a refugee student. They did this by preparing teachers with the knowledge and skills necessary to understand the challenges of a life as a refugee. By applying interactive instructional techniques, to increase students' participation in the classroom. The program started in 2012 with an outreach of more than 16,000 beneficiaries throughout the kingdom.
ومن أجل حمايتكم جميعا يحظر تنقل الأشخاص وتجوالهم في جميع مناطق المملكة.
They never knew they would be away for such a long time. Education had been disrupted by COVID-19. For nearly 77 million children, the pandemic has taken away their classrooms for the past 18 months. School children around the world have lost an estimated 1.8 trillion hours of in-person learning since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent lockdowns. 16% of students in Jordan lack internet access. 1/3 do not have a computer. The cost of school closures on students' health and well-being has been devastating. Studies have shown that school closures have contributed to an increase in anxiety, stress, frustration, and loneliness among young people. Uncertainty, social isolation, domestic problems, sickness, and loss have resulted in mental health issues which have in turn demotivated students from achieving any academic success.
So starting from the latest disruption in education caused by COVID-19 and the role of QRTA in addressing this issue and supporting teachers. Actually, one key of successful school development and improvement lies in the staff of the school. Teachers make a difference in the classroom. Teachers make a difference in the lives of their pupils. And teachers make a difference in the future life chances of their students. So the continuing development of teachers' professional and pedagogical skills is essential to improving the performance of the pupils and the overall school in general. Actually, Queen Rania Teacher Academy knows very well what teachers need in the field. And so if I may start with Rula, and if you can tell us, Rula, how did we provide support to teachers during COVID-19? And what kind of professional development teachers need at these very challenging times?
Thank you so much, Nabila. Actually, it's a very important question as a response to COVID. And we all know that the school closure that took place had a great impact on the health of students, on the learning and the well-being of students. And Jordan was actually one of the top 20 countries with the highest number of full days of school closures. And school closures, studies tell us that it has a great impact on students, on the anxiety that is taking place, the stress, the loneliness, some self-isolation. And this in turn definitely has an impact on their motivation to learn, their academic success. Some kind of behavioral issues might rise.
And we all have seen that actually in our kids, our children at home.
Exactly, very true. And at QRTA, at Queen Rania Teacher Academy, we're always keen to meet the needs of learners, of educators. And we're always keen to make sure that any kind of professional development is based on needs of learners. And this is where we felt that we need to provide the schools and make sure that there's a safe, inclusive learning environment for the students. And this is where we started developing a program, a psychosocial support program, not only for teachers, but for counselors and for principals as well. Why counselors? Because it was very clear, studies told us that counselors are in the front line of assessing needs of students, of providing the care for students and teachers. So an effective training program is much needed to make sure that they have the proper understanding, the knowledge, and the skill to support students and support teachers. And actually what is very unique in the way we present our programs is the link between theory and practice. So we always make it a point that the theory we provide through our training is supported by practicum. So our trainers, what they did in this program is to follow up through lesson observations, to coach, to mentor, and to guide teachers and counselors as well, and make sure that there's this impact on the learning of students. We concentrated a lot on social emotional learning components, looking at self-management, self-regulation, looking at problem solving, decision making, and all of this is actually very, very important. So we are very proud of this. We started, and what we always do is start with a pilot. We look at this pilot thoroughly. We get the feedback from our beneficiaries. We enhance it in the way it should be so that we develop a bigger program. And we are in this process and hoping that we can reach a very large number of beneficiaries. And definitely, we always work in very close collaboration with the Ministry of Education to make sure that we have all been able to identify the needs of our educators in the field.
Thank you, Rula. That's really impressive. And I think what makes it really impressive is that you could develop it so rapidly that accommodated the needs of teachers in these very challenging times. So in such situations, teachers require to adapt to their roles other than facilitating learning, but as well as to support in the psychosocial care of their students, their learners, and that needs a lot of professional development.
Definitely. If I may add just one more thing, is that we always target a school. Why? Because we want to make sure that we're creating a social support system. So the training would target the counselor, the principal, and a group of teachers. In this way, you have change makers in the school, disseminating the knowledge, creating professional learning communities, and this would definitely empower all stakeholders to ensure that we have this target. The aim that we want is a safe, inclusive learning environment for our learners.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And let's see, after a while, we will ask Abir about the impact of all of this pilot group, and it will be interesting to know. So maybe Abid can add, how are we able to really develop this program so fast and have it implemented and have this pilot group so quickly?
Good question.
Thank you, Nabila, and thank you, Rula, for the great introduction of the program. This actually brings a lot of great memories over the past years of how QRTA has managed to work on this program. So flashback to 2012, that's where the whole program actually started. The region was hit with a huge emergency of refugees. Jordan in particular, one of the cities, as you know, in the north of the country has actually increased from 300,000 people to 1.3 million all of the sudden in no time. And that's when we started to see, as a country, as a community, we started to see some actually issues at the schools in trying to integrate refugee students into the classrooms. And in some cases we've seen trauma, we've seen cases of psychological disorder of students, and how teachers needed to deal with this was really challenging. And that's when QRTA jumped in on this and developed a program to actually work with teachers to better understand the situation of their students and to actually give them some strategies of how to deal with students of psychological disorder, and when to know to actually involve the counselors at the schools. And that was the interesting part of how QRTA worked on it. The interesting angle was with QRTA's experience in pedagogy in the classroom, is how QRTA managed to integrate psychological support with pedagogy within the education cycle or the learning cycle within the classroom. So that was how it all started. Over the years, this program has kept developing and evolving from a learning, creating inclusive learning environment at the classroom. Initially, it was, as we said, refugee oriented, but then we started to see that these techniques actually work for any disorder at the classroom. And that's where we started to grow the beneficiaries of the program. Over the years, more than 16,000 teachers have benefited of this program. And most recently, we saw that the same program could be actually adapted and developed to serve as a response to COVID-19 in trying to work between the students and the teachers in the classroom, whether remotely or actually in trying to bring the students back to the classroom.
That is amazing, because this is an impressive number, 16,000 actually, and it's really crucial to facilitate and strengthen the psychosocial capacity of teachers and school leaders and counselors, as Rula mentioned, in the refugee camps and as well as hosting communities by providing them with the strategies and tools they need. And it worked well in any time of crisis, not necessarily in the time of in a refugee context, let's say. So I believe that training of teachers in these contexts enable children to thrive in their education, as well as in their learning environment, with their own curriculum, with their own teachers. And those teachers, they empathize actually with those kids with trauma and these very difficult, challenging environments. So what is it, Abid, that makes really this program very unique and special in its components?
Thanks, Nabila. Interesting question, to be honest. The greatest thing that I think how QRTA, how Rania Teacher Academy actually addressed the program was probably the unique advantage or the unique part of the program. QRTA's experience is actually in the field and understanding what teachers need and how to support teachers with the right tools and provide the right support to teachers within their own environment. Mm-hmm. So that was unique in how QRTA worked on it, okay, and involving the psychological aspect within that. So it's pedagogy, psychological support in the classroom of the teacher of their own environment. So it's actually that mixed together that QRTA brought into the program and was really effective, because the training was really done at the schools. We actually went to the schools and we actually trained the teacher in their own environment and supported them in coping and in responding to the needs of the students in their own classroom. So that was more of hands-on experience that QRTA worked on with the students and the teachers at the schools. So I think that was the unique part.
So thank you. So did you involve like the parents and the local communities to support, because they play a very essential role actually in such times and in such circumstances?
Great point, to be honest. That was a very important component of creating a safe learning environment. You cannot do that at the school alone or at the classroom alone. You have to include the community around it, and that's why QRTA worked with the community, and the school was an active component of that. So involving parents, conducting reading clubs, for example, at the school, okay, where actually students used to spend time reading books at the school. And that was a community activity that they used to involve their parents and the teachers in that activity at the school. They also did actually role play, for example. They did lots of activities to integrate not only the refugee students, but to integrate the community actually together.
I think that is very important, as they play a very essential role in the schools. Schools cannot do the work alone. Teachers cannot do the work alone, definitely. So again, back to Rula, and talking, actually many theories talk about the non-cognitive skills or soft skills in early childhood, as well as the importance of those, building those skills early on. And actually, Robert Fulham, classics essay, he wrote that all I really need to know, I learned in kindergarten. So one aspect that is very important as well at this stage, or for in the refugees context, is literacy. So can you tell us, Rula, the role QRTA had in supporting teachers in literacy and as well as non-cognitive skills?
Yeah, thank you very much, Nabila. You actually highlighted two important things. We're talking about literacy and non-cognitive skills. And in addition to building on what Abed actually talked about, refugee camps. So a very special program, which is very close to my heart, talking about literacy. It's a program that is literacy, professional development for early grades. And this program in particular aims to help Syrian assistant teachers in refugee camps, supporting them to gain the understanding, the knowledge and the skills in teaching the Arabic language. This is done through using storytelling.
Oh.
So storytelling is being used to enhance the Arabic language skills of students. So imagine how motivating, engaging, and inspiring it is for the students. This program, and before I talk about it a bit more, I'd like to stop and focus a bit more on literacy. Mm-hmm. Although this program has been developed and designed before COVID, but now with what happened and due to the pandemic and what research says, is that the most learning loss that took place is in literacy and numeracy. And in early grades. So having this program nowadays targeting literacy and for early grades is actually what we need. So the program is divided into 3 phases, interesting 3 phases that I would like to talk about. In the first phase, the teacher is working on reading. So in this case, you are enhancing oral skills for students, listening and speaking. In the second phase, you go through repetition. And what repetition does is that you enhance the pronunciation skills of students. You are building vocabulary. You are improving the reading skills as well. So we're always focusing on those 4 important components: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And in the third phase, the teacher is linking it to the environment. And what that means is that the story is around the environment. Don't forget that we're talking about refugees in camps. So the stories talk about the cleanliness of the environment, the importance of saving water and electricity. So you're trying to send some messages, and at the same time, you are achieving your target in enhancing the Arabic language. And in those stories, you have this pre-story, the during story, and the post-story. Skills are being also gained in each one of them. So the pre-story, you're trying to tell your students to predict. You're trying to tell them to think of what the story would be talking about. So you're enhancing thinking skills. There's prediction taking place. There are what-if questions taking place. There are what they're dreaming of, some kind of imagination. Then during the story, what you're doing is trying to solve the problem. So more analytical skills are taking place, more critical thinking skills are taking place. And then in the post-story, you want them to come up with a project. So they might take the story and turn it into a puppet show, a play, a drawing. So the students are expressing themselves even more and more, which is very interesting.
It is very interesting. I feel like you're describing the cycle of a stream approach in teaching, or you linked literacy with the problem solving and then linking it into real life examples. Do you have an example of that, Rila?
Yes, I'd like to actually share one of the stories that I felt were very emotional. Just to let you know, again, it's targeting Syrian assistant teachers. They don't have to be teachers, but in the refugee camp, we make sure that in every, let's say, house, there's a member who's joining us, and this member should show interest and passion. And because we need to help them, of course, to gain a living out of it. So we had a 70-year-old man, 70-year-old man who showed great passion and wanted to be part of this program. And when we had the part of the, the project, what he did was that he came behind the curtains and with the puppet, nobody knew who he was, and he changed the tone of his voice, and he said the story. Everybody, all teachers were really very much engaged. They felt it was very emotional. And then when he revealed himself, and it was this 70-year-old man, everyone was clapping, and even the trainers, they thought he did a great job. He said, I felt that I've gone back to my 20s and 30s, and now I'm willing to go back to the classroom to inspire my students, to motivate them to learn. So such stories we feel are very, impactful, and we always make sure that the training targets not only teachers, again, just like what I said before, school principals and supervisors, so that they are aware of what the teachers are doing. They need the support. So without awareness, without believing in how important this is, it would not work. So we always have them all together to empower them and to create this system in the school.
Yeah, thank you. That's I believe the importance of literacy early on, especially in those different circumstances, makes a big difference. Yeah. And it's all about passion. If you're passionate about teaching, it works, and you change lives simply.
Definitely.
So in the context of teachers' professional development, Valley and Busick found that teachers' roles and responsibility had increased, actually intensified, and even extended significantly in response to the policies that focus on increasing student achievement. Teachers' responsiveness is especially necessary in schools in hosting communities. Thematic analysis was used to identify in which ways teachers' adaptation to high risk benefit from the program. So if I may ask Abir to share with us, how did we evaluate such programs? We mentioned the psychosocial support program since 2012, as well as the one for literacy that we're currently implementing it. So do we have any studies on that, Abir? And usually, how do we prove, or how do we measure the impact of our programs on students' outcomes and teacher development?
Thank you, Nabila. This topic actually is near and dear to my heart, so I can speak for hours and hours about evaluation and research. I'll try to brief it as much as I can within our time.
Take your time.
Actually, QRTA is really dedicated to measuring the quality, the relevance, effectiveness, impact, as well as sustainability of our programs. And we have a team dedicated to work on this and using monitoring and evaluation as a function to make sure that we are capturing the impact of our programs in the field. And what I really like about what we are doing at QRTA is that monitoring and evaluation is not only donor-driven, it's an institutional function, and it's really used throughout QRTA for learning. And this is this type of operation is creating an evidence-based decision-making culture at QRTA, and this is where the monitoring and evaluation function is actually capturing what's happening in terms of quality. We are collecting instant feedbacks of our training programs. It might see that it's really overwhelming and time-consuming. However, we took a decision that it is actually worth it. And we are collecting our feedbacks for all our training activities, and we are sharing instant findings with the program teams and with our stakeholders. This is allowing for ongoing reflective meetings and the program reviews, which Rula and Abed also mentioned. Therefore, we're not only looking at impact from one aspect, we are looking at different levels of measuring this impact. For example, through all these feedbacks, we have found that our participants are really satisfied with our programs and with the quality of our trainings. And our satisfaction rate currently stands at 90%, which is considered really high, considering that we have more than 16,000 beneficiaries. Also, we look into how our programs are improving knowledge and skills and practices for these teachers. And through our evaluations and research, we found out that our teachers, for example, in the psychosocial program, reported an 83 rate of being highly satisfied of increased knowledge in concepts related to effective communication with the students, managing anger at the classroom, managing violence at the classroom. And this shows how the teachers are using these practices to deal with the students and to create a better, inclusive and safe environment for learning. Also, when we talked with the assistant teachers who were engaged with the literacy program, we also found out that storytelling actually was one of the highlights they reported as a strategy which they started using in their practices, and really felt that they started engaging the students as well in their practices. Aside from the direct beneficiaries of our programs, we also wanted to see how the students are seeing this change in the classroom. And we talked with the students. We measured aspects related for how much they now like the school, how much they love to come to school and to engage in their classes. And in one of our evaluations, 93% of the students actually said that they now love to come to school. And they identified three main reasons behind this happiness of being at the classroom. They identified the new practices used by their teachers. They identified how they can now engage with their colleagues and with their friends. They called them friends at the classroom and at the school. And they also said that the environment itself of the classroom is now engaging. And around 80% and higher of the students said that they now feel that all the students from the different nationalities are being treated equally at the classroom. And the teacher is now listening to them. The teacher is trying to help them overcome problems. But they also highlighted the happy aspect of this. They said that teachers are now celebrating with them their successes. And students, when they feel that they are happy and excited about something taking place in the classroom, they go and they talk with their teachers. And the teachers are now celebrating this inside the classroom environment and for all the students from the different nationalities, which is showing us that really this environment and these practices of the psychosocial support are again contributing to creating an inclusive environment. One more aspect that we thought that is important to also look at is the surrounding community. When we talk about sustainability, it's not only about what's happening in the classroom or even the school. We also wanted to see how this support is sustained after the school as well. And this is where we have the model of the community schools and where the community is being engaged with the school activities. So through our discussions with some of the parents and representatives from the local community who were engaged in these practices with the schools, they also informed us that they started to develop this understanding of the psychosocial practices. And sometimes why teachers and students are doing these practices together. So this support is coming now from the community, from home, from the parents. And I believe that it's one of the aspects that is really supporting sustainability and creating this positive impact for the psychosocial program as well as for the Arabic literacy program in refugee camps and in the hosting communities as well.
I do believe that it's the importance of quality of the training. It is very important, but also the support that you get in this professional community of learning that takes place. Indeed. Where the students see support in school. They have this open channels where they can express themselves from the examples you mentioned as well. And then when they go home, they find support. Their parents understand what's happening and they are encouraged to express their feelings. Yes. I believe it makes it's nice to have those results in the studies that you did. So Abir, if we want our audience to benefit from those reports, where can they find them?
Very good question. And I will advocate for this actually. I like so much that all our work is published at the QRTA website. So all you have to do is to go to the website of Queen Rania Teacher Academy, search for the tab called Publications, and there you will find all the research and the evaluation studies that we do for the different programs.
Definitely, it's an amazing work, and I'm sure that people will benefit from those reports if they provide professional development in similar circumstances. Abid, is there any way else that QRTA support teachers with the strategies and tools or other ways to support?
Yeah, thank you, Nabila. In fact, earlier this year, and as a result of two additional things that we're also doing with respect to psychosocial support. This has also started since the pandemic started last year. We started doing actually live sessions to share with teachers some of the strategies they can use within their classroom. And this has been a contribution from QRTA. Most of these are actually available on our Facebook page. But also earlier this year, 2021, we also launched a behavior management course on our learning management system platform. That's available on our website, and our learning management system can be accessed through www.eqrta.edu.jo. The courses are actually developed as open online courses, so any teacher can take it. And we're happy that more and more teachers are actually reporting good usage of that course, and also they're using it within their classroom. We'd love to hear more thoughts from teachers, and we'll be launching more courses soon as well on that can support teachers with psychosocial support. We believe more focus is taking place around psychosocial support and mental health these days, and maybe this is where the future is going. And we're glad that actually educators and schools are aware of how important is this area for their students and their community. And I would encourage teachers to continue to check our website and our learning management system for more to come.
Yeah, that's I think it's as a mission of QRTA to support and equip teachers with all of what they need so they can excel in their work actually. So if we want to summarize or have or talk about lessons we have learned throughout the years providing the psychosocial support, literacy, and other programs as well, especially the online programs we developed during COVID or during the last year as well. So what are the lessons learned so people benefit from it and let's say do not need to reinvent the wheel and continue on supporting teachers from our experience? If I may start with Rula.
Indeed, if we're going to start with lessons learned, I feel that we need another session, a whole hour just to talk about the lessons learned. But definitely we'd like to share it with our audience. I'm going to restrict myself to two, very important in my opinion, in my experience. The first one is the cycle of the program that we go through. It is always based at the beginning from the need of what educators really want, or any, let's say, urgent matter that rises. QRTA is always on the front line to make sure that it highlights this and starts working on it. Next, we make sure that there's evidence-based research on what is needed. So anything we do is always based on latest research. In most of our programs, we do ensure that we are working in collaboration with great educational organizations, experts in the field, so the development of the program takes place in partnership with such organizations. Yet, I have to say that it is always contextualized to make sure that it fits our needs and our teachers, not only in Jordan, but in the region as well. And as you said, Nabila, that we've started with our online programs. So now it is very important to make sure that the programs we are developing are suitable for the kingdom, the country, the region. We always start throughout the cycle as well, going through a pilot phase, where through the pilot phase, we make sure that we collect enough data, enough feedback in order to enhance and develop the program. Following that, when a full cohort is being implemented, then we have those impact studies after a while. The impact studies and the feedback we get informs our planning and our improvement and enhancement of those programs. And as we move on, especially in online programs, we make sure that there's a clear learning experience, a learning journey the candidate is going through. Again, a blend of synchronous and asynchronous sessions take place, making sure that the learning is being built gradually. There's some self-learning, there's some independent learning, because at the end, we want lifelong learners. So this is one thing. Another thing, I know we've mentioned it a lot, and Abir also talked about it, but I should also, again, consider it one of our main lessons learned, and that is professional learning communities. A quote that I always repeat and believe a lot in by Robert John Meehan is that the most valuable resource for all teachers is each other, is having each other as their resource, because without collaboration, you're always limited to your own perspective. And professional learning communities achieve this collaboration that happens. They share their experience, they create this community, which is one of the factors of the sustainability of any program. Because if you can actually establish it in a school, in a community, then you really make sure that lifelong learning is taking place. And as a simple example, maybe if I go back to the literacy program, we made sure that, we had professional learning communities and teachers from different subjects. So there was this thematic approach, this stream approach, where you're not only teaching Arabic, you're also teaching some science, there's reading taking place, so the stream approach is there. A simple example, one that I felt was very nice in one of the stories, is the story of a raindrop. So the story of a raindrop is how this drop, goes to the ground, it evaporates, it becomes a cloud, then we have thunderstorm and rain again. The students were learning more about science. They were acquiring this Arabic language and the 4 components we've been talking about. they went to the art classroom and they had those bags and they were blowing inside the bags and the cloud was there and they were drawing it. So imagine you're trying to have an interdisciplinary approach actually, and achieving your target throughout all those subjects. And this is definitely enhanced through professional learning communities as well, because teachers are sharing experiences. There's peer coaching taking place. They're learning from each other. And always I go back to being a mathematics teacher. So to me, this is very passionate, because peer coaching is where you really learn a lot from teachers and from each other.
So thank you, Rula. That is really, really valuable. So first of all, we are talking about evidence-based decisions to make the programs depending on the cycle of the program development, and as well as the learning cycle for the teachers themselves. So that is what I think that is a huge experience in QRTA. And secondly, the professional learning communities and its importance actually. So Abir, do you have any recommendations? And I can guess where you're heading to.
You can guess. It's evaluation, then evaluation, then evaluation.
Wow.
And actually, two characteristics that we found important in our experience. Participatory types of evaluation, where the different stakeholders are actually engaged in this process, because this will encourage buy-in and ownership of what is happening and the impact of the programs. And multi-level evaluations, because impact doesn't happen suddenly and it happens through stages. So I am evaluating the quality of my programs, I'm checking how I am improving knowledge, then I'm checking how I'm improving skills and practices. All these together, how they are then impacting the learning environment and engaging the students as well as the community. So I believe it's important to consider all these aspects when we are doing an evaluation to really capture impact or the bigger picture of what is happening in terms of impact. And the second important thing is the actual utilization of evaluation as a learning tool. Because you can do the best evaluation in the world, and then if it's not used, it's useless.
Absolutely.
Exactly, and this is what I really like about what's happening within our culture here at QRTA as an evidence-based organization, because we don't leave this cycle empty. So once we are done with the implementation and then the evaluation, reflective meetings are taking place to do the reviews, and the evaluation findings are results are actually being used to develop programs, plans, strategic objectives, or even in the business development aspect for the academy. So I would really advocate for these tips to be taken in mind when we are thinking about what is the impact of what we do.
That is great, to be honest, and I believe that a lot of the plans we do, Abed, are based on the results from Abir's department. So evaluation, and learning from the results of the evaluation. And Abed, can you give us a final recommendation from the experience and the lessons that we have learned throughout the years?
Sure, Nabila. I think the most interesting part, I would say, we are a learning organization. So we keep learning as we go. I mean, as my colleagues, Abir and Rula have mentioned, we keep looking at the impact of our work and how actually, and we learn from that, and how we reflect this within our programs. So the whole program, the psychosocial program, psychosocial support program, when it started in 2012, was based on a lot of analysis of what are the needs of the teachers and the counselors within their own environment. So the analysis of understanding the beneficiaries' needs within their own environment is a key important item for the success of the program. End of day, what we do has to benefit actually the target community that we focus on. And this is maybe the important advice we'd like to give to educators and to everyone actually in this space who's trying to benefit the community they're working with. You need to focus on what the community actually needs and how to work with them to create that impact. And that's a cycle. That's not only delivering a training or a program and then going away. That's creating that program, providing the support, and coaching the beneficiaries over a period of time, and then actually doing the impact along the way. So to better understand how this community is impacted and how this program is evolving. And you keep adapting that program along the way. So you see actually, you see the trends, and you learn from that, and you keep going at it. One important item that I've just learned actually over this week and the past 10 days, that we've been working with principals at the different schools in Jordan and introducing a module for them around how to manage crisis. Simply, this is really preparing principals for the unknown. And this is what we have learned in the past 2 years, and this is how we're reflecting this with principals over the past few days in schools in Jordan. It's a very interesting journey. I love what we do, and how we keep learning as an organization reflect that in our programs.
Thank you. That's amazing. Hopefully everyone will benefit from those lessons and the journey of QRTA. And I believe the strength of QRTA is that we listen to the field, we listen to teachers, we listen to practitioners.
Exactly.
We are never alone. We know what they need, and we know how to develop that, and we learn. We adapt. I think being an agile organization, changing and leading and during crisis, and learning from what we do, it is one of our strengths. And we all changed during COVID-19 the last 2 years, and our perspective of online learning and even acceptance of teachers. We saw a big change in the online content and technology skills.
I think it was a reflective meeting, by the way. Don't you I feel it's a really reflective meeting for all of us that QRTA is sharing with everybody else. Sorry.
And
Go ahead. But I thought I had to
it's great. It's great to share our experience and to learn from others as well.
Definitely.
So thank you so much, our panelists, for this valuable information, and thank you for the 1 hour. We really didn't feel it. Thank you, Abed, Abir, and Rula. And thank you.
Thank you, Nabila, for moderating. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great session.
Join Time Magazine's lead education reporter alongside global educators and advocates to explore the impacts of teaching forgiveness.
I teach forgiveness because it can have a positive impact in my students' families.
It helps my students thrive in the face of adversity.
Students who can forgive are happier.
Join us to hear from teachers and thought leaders on how and why to include forgiveness in your classroom.
Temperature rise will bring widespread devastation and unprecedented extreme weather.
New coronavirus cases emerge across the country.
Obesity rates have more than doubled in kids.
Cape Town is running out of water.